told you broke one side off.
After second day on the road, rolling through eastern Colorado. We spent about 17 hours on the road yesterday, and we're into about our third this morning, so we're ready to get out of this truck. Heading to a unit we've never been to before. We're a little farther north here on the plains than we typically hunt. Haven't seen it before, but we talked to our connection out here yesterday. All the corn's still standing, so we're going to have a little bit of a challenge. We've got some tricks up our sleeve, and we'll just have to see what happens.
This segment brought to you by Onyx Maps.
Well, we got all the property scouted out. All that was left to do now was to go take my landowner voucher and get it redeemed. In other words, turn it into a tag. First time I had done this in Colorado, we thought it was something that would be easy to do, but that's where we sort of ran into a problem. We're making our second trip into Walmart. We've been on the phone now and been messing around for about an hour with the Division of Wildlife here in Colorado. Somebody evidently had already redeemed this landowner voucher, so we were in a little bit of a pickle. But we think we got it worked out, and we're going to go in here and see if we can redeem it. They reset the computer, so keep your fingers crossed. Narrowly averted. Well, the first morning was pretty slow deer movement. We were just about ready to pack it in, and that's when it got interesting. Logan turned around to me and says, "Big deer." Well, from my angle, all I could see was pieces of him. He was making a scrape under a tree, and when I finally started to get glimpses of his rack, all I could see were little pieces of it also. When I did see him, quite frankly, I wasn't that impressed. Well, when he finally stepped out, he was right on top of us and headed right at us. So we were pinned down, couldn't move. The closer he got, that's when I finally started realizing just what a huge deer this guy was. I mean, he was an old deer, huge.
Right.
It's crazy. Buck was right on top of us, literally too close. It's an old deer. Wasn't the highest scored deer in the world, but he was definitely an old mature buck. He was a brute. Oh well. He didn't act too spooked when he left, so we may get on him again. I kept debating and debating. I could have shot him. He got right there. I saw those bases were about that big. How old? I said, "Hell, I'm gonna shoot that deer." I could have shot him from the hip. I was started to shoot him from the hip. God. That deer was literally 12 feet.
This segment brought to you by Huskama Optics.
Well, the second morning, we obviously went back to that same set. We were hoping to run into that deer again. We had named him Droopy the night before. Both his main beams had these huge drops at the end. They looked like they were melting, so hence the name. Didn't see much in the way of activity that morning, so we actually, in between sets, we left that tree stand set there and decided to go a little deeper into the property. As you know, you run a risk of jumping a good deer when you do that, and that's exactly what we did.
Sometimes that works. He did indeed. He ran out 150 yards and stopped, so he just made a sprint. That close. Oh well.
Well, that's a little Tennessee trick right there. Run while they're running. You never know, and it's worked before. Day 3, the temperature dropped at least 20 degrees from any morning we'd had so far, and the activity definitely picked up.
This segment brought to you by Caldwell Shooting Supplies.
Well, we're out here shooting some test rounds through Andy's gun today, and the piece of gear we wanted to show you today was the Caldwell lead sled. The lead sled has been synonymous for years as far as a recoil reducing bench rest. This version is actually their newest one. It's called the DFT, which stands for dual frame technology. They've just kind of upped the ante with this one. It's got a lot more features on it. One of the cool things about having the dual frame is for a lot of people that are shooting AR platform guns, the clip will actually go through here. That was sometimes problematic with the old one. Still got some of the same great features. You've got micro adjustments as far as elevation with your elevation collar. Windage is the same as it was on all of the lead sleds. Your stock stabilizer is just like shouldering a real gun. Super great product. We don't have any weight in here currently. We don't use it that much, but you can actually add weight to this just like the other one. It's actually got a dual pan here for weight to reduce recoil even further. The neat thing about this thing is just so rock solid that with a lot of rest, you have to make all your adjustments again between shots. With this one, it virtually doesn't even move. You can literally sit here and rack in shot after shot after shot without having to make any adjustments. So if you're going to be doing any sighting in work, anything like that, you can sight in your shotguns as well with this. It'll accommodate just about anything. So if you're going to be doing anything, you need to check one of these things out. They are awesome. Well, the fourth evening was probably going to be our last. As it turns out, we had an early snowstorm on its way. They were predicting about 1 foot in Denver, probably 8 to 10 inches out where we were. It's going to be real heavy, wet snow, so kind of running out of options here. Hard to film in those kind of conditions. It was just about prime time. We spotted a big body. It was moving from our left to right. It was about 400 yards out, so we couldn't tell what it was. From Logan's vantage point, he could see the body fine, couldn't see the horns. From mine, I could see just little pieces of the horn. There was one opening kind of in the center of my view, and he was just hung up to the left of it. It wouldn't completely come out. The deer was facing us, and he was rubbing on a fence post. I mean, he had it whittled down to nothing. And all I could see from my perspective was his left side just kind of going up and down on the fence post. But it was enough to recognize the fact that it was indeed Droopy.
You see him?
Well, all I could do was hold in the opening. We were running out of time and options. When he finally raised his head, took a few steps to the right, I let her fly.
Mile-an-hour winds and the trees swaying about 400 yards. But I think that was that really old deer we were after, so
It definitely was.
we're gonna go down there and see if we can find some blood before it gets dark. This used to be a fence post. That's what this old guy was rubbing on when we first saw him over there. That's crazy. He took about 2 steps out, got clear right here, and you can see our first blood. I thought he ran far, but all he did is run out of the camera. He's right here. That is a giant old deer. We got film of him the first morning. He was so huge, so old, we thought he was probably, like an 8-year-old deer. But as you can see right now, his right side's completely missing, so that's a shame. But you won't kill a more mature animal than that right there. I wish we could find this. Dang. He's a gnarly old goat though. He's got into it with somebody just in the last 3 days, because that was their huge head. Absolutely giant body. Well over 300 pounds. 6-inch bases. Not the highest scoring deer in the world, but he's definitely an old booger. That's what we came for. So we're tickled.